don't think that they've been battling that we've missed here on screen.
Oh, Hisada wide.
Hisada, can he make the corner? Somehow he does. How did he get back on there? That could not have been any closer. 0 as they cross the line, and now they start to scatter. They know it's for real this time, and I think that's Adams Jr., who's got a good shot, and he goes up the middle, 3 wide into Lacombe. Is he going to be able to take the lead? Yes, he's got it. And coming down into the second one. Yep, there it is. I was going to say, he's mighty close. Hisada sees it coming. Is he going to try and cut back? He's going to use the wider exit to actually get a good launch and take the inside. Coming down into Hans Ernst. Could he fight back? He doesn't have the nose ahead of him. There goes Jim Shedlick, who goes a little wide, banking now the other way. Hisada fights back, and coming down into Kumho, Hisada somehow is back into the lead.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
As we enter the second half of 2022 Season 2, the stakes are raised. Drivers now have to think about how a dropped round will affect their place in the standings, and early season mistakes are coming back to bite. Who will get their season back on track, literally as well as figuratively? Thursday nights at the Precision Racing League continue for round 6 of their Ferrari GT3 and Formula 3 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Reese Gardner. With me in the booth is Justin Prince. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Ferraris kick things off at the Red Bull Ring, a track that looks simple from the air, but from the driver's seat is anything but. What will the drivers be dealing with tonight? Let's check out the track guide.
Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Remus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Remus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps, and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race.
Righto, Justin. We love the Red Bull Ring. Always puts on a good race. Deceptively difficult, I have to say. And there's plenty of difficulties the drivers are going to be dealing with here. Not least that 4-tyre off-track detection system. They're going to have to be careful to keep their incidents low.
Yeah, this is a track where if you don't get within the very edge of that red mark, and keep in mind that's given to drivers within the rules for those off-track rule limits, they will in turn be issued an incident point. Keep in mind though, the run through Niki Lauda going to be one of the major points of emphasis, because it's going to be a difficult place to pass per se, but at the same time, you don't get that corner exit strong enough, you end up potentially being up for grabs by the time you get to turn 3. All the way to the start of Sector 2, those are the 2 main passing opportunities. The rest of the track here is essentially a rhythm portion of the circuit, where you have to make sure you keep your momentum going, hit your marks just right, and be able to keep yourself within drafting distance of the cars in front if you want to pounce your way ahead in the field. It's also, keep in mind, some of those sections today throughout the next 2.683 miles of corners and 4.32 kilometers, where you'll see many drivers likely kick up some of the kitty litter and some of the sand and get into some trouble today.
Indeed, it is a Formula One circuit through and through these drivers are racing at in our broadcast tonight, brought to you by the sponsors at the Precision Racing League like Advanced SimRacing. Owned and operated by a passionate SimRacers, Advanced SimRacing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
And finally, PRL is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Well, here's how things stand in the Drivers' Championship to start things off here at the Red Bull Ring for the second half of the season. The drop round has been applied. Alec Bergstrom is one of the drivers for whom a round has been dropped. A majority of drivers having not started at least one race means that a few drivers have advantages, like Nick McLaughlin. He now takes the lead of the championship, but he's only holding on by 3 points from Alec Bergstrom, who still has yet to win a race this season. It's going to be a fun one to see if Bergstrom can finally pull that one off, Justin. But either way, it's going to be a tight fight, not just in the Drivers' Championship, but potentially in the teams as well.
Especially since 3 of the top organizations are separated by just 8 points. Eagle Vision Racing, after what was a pretty wild round for the Ferrari class last time out, able to come up on top coming into today, with Viking Hot Rod Racing jumping up to second. Cloud Valve Racing, remember, came in amongst the top drivers in terms of the top standing, should say, in this teams. They dropped to third entering today. F-Red Racing, Car Ramrod, Parabol Racing, should say, and YS Motorsports rounding up the 7 team entries throughout the season, separation 152 points.
And this is how the drivers are going to be conducting themselves tonight. It's a 35-minute race here at the Red Bull Ring, and they're running fixed setups. This is one of the beginner series at the Precision Racing League, so the only thing that the drivers will be able to adjust really is the brake bias. But the big sticking point is those incident limits. A drive-through penalty at 13 incidents, disqualification at 17. It's very easy to pick up off tracks here at the Red Bull Ring, and there's potential for a unsafe entry penalty into the pits, given how difficult that entry line is off the second last turn. Qualifying has begun, and Nick McLaughlin is out on track. He absolutely dominated last round at Suzuka, Justin. So much so that he surprised us. He could afford to take, let's say, an alternate route on the final lap.
Yeah, that's an understatement, and it can be seen as a bit of the Joker lap, maybe, possibly. Some say a little bit of a speed boost zone, as he put it. But he just had that consistency from the get-go because of how well he took the start, how well he was able to break away from the draft within the first sector and a half, which really set the tempo the rest of the way. Keep in mind, he set the tempo for himself in Cloud Valve Racing so far. He was nearly 3/10 quicker than the next year's car in practice. Lightning quick compared to a lot of the competitors today. He's looking strong entering this one.
Certainly is, but he's also going to be dealing with plenty more cars here tonight. There's been a big upturn in the amount of drivers in this series. The numbers dipped just a little bit as McLaughlin begins his first qualifying lap, but we have got 21 cars in the server here tonight, which is excellent to see. So hopefully some drivers will be able to take the fight properly to Nick McLaughlin here through the first corner then. And looks like he's kept it within limits there. It's so difficult to get the power down out of the first turn. Niki Lauda here at the Red Bull Ring, thanks to that yellow sausage curb. This is turn 2, and it's debatable whether or not it even counts as a turn. As you come into turn 3, the hairpin at Remus. Got to be careful to put the power down there. And it's a little bit off camber as well. There's potential for a move up the inside, but in most of the series that I've broadcast, Justin, it seems that the outside line is the one with the advantage at Remus. It could be the same here too.
Yeah, and several of the major championship runs, in particular when it comes to sports cars, with the Red Bull Ring Masters, which comes to mind a few months ago from the Canadian Nationals. Some of the moves that were made by drivers were in that section. The most successful moves in a lot of those cases came indeed from that outside. As well, when you think of some of the open wheel title runs that happened last year, in particular on the service, same could be said in that mark. The driver towards the outside, if they were able to avoid contact, usually was the one who gained the position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few drivers think about that in terms of how they handle it defensively. Keep in mind, it's also very easy for drivers to overshoot the corner braking-wise, as McLaughlin kicks up a little bit of sand. No incident point picked up this lap. This counts for a 128 flat.
Good stuff. That is still quicker than everyone else's times in practice. So McLaughlin has set up his potential pole position run perfectly here. Alec Bergstrom's first lap puts him into third. He is about 9/10 off Nick McLaughlin at the moment, so he's going to find a bit more pace there.
Already looking towards some of the drivers as they continue on here. Joey Tebben has already picked up several incident points. Paul Wildridge one. Charles Sumner picking up another couple right there with that slide. Baron Hilton, as well as Eric Dubé amongst those who have picked up incident points. At least half the field nearly has gotten that. The overall objective, some people have said coming into today, actually complete a lap without 0 incident points. Because if you get an incident point, of course, it doesn't count.
Exactly right. And that's something that I've suffered from quite a bit when I've been behind the wheel at the Red Bull Ring. Joey Tebben here, a driver who we often see in the broadcast booth here at GSRC now, behind the driver's seat himself. He was able to get P4 in practice, which it was pretty good to see. He's really pushing it there in the middle of the lap. Seemed like he wasn't quite using all of the track, though. You think he was just gearing up for another attempt at a lap here. But these last couple of corners, they are so difficult to get right. You can run a little bit beyond the green curbing between them, but got to nail the exit here. And Joey Tebben's first lap is going to be a 1 minute 29.0, and that is going to put him straight into P5 with a reasonable gap to Owen McLaughlin in the number 19. McLaughlin is one of the other drivers that have visited the winner's circle this season. What can Jack Clark do? Currently P12, 1 minute, okay, running just a little bit slower than his fastest time as things stand. 15 drivers so far.
Big difference compared to some of the times. Keep in mind with some of them fighting to make sure they're quick, but also maintaining the track limits. Upwards of nearly 3 seconds the difference for a majority of the drivers. David Boucher currently 15th, 131.3 for reference. And I think this will come in time, I should say, with some of the drivers in terms of how comfortable they can feel things out. Tyler Anthony in particular looking towards. He was quick in practice in the 120 flats in this session. He's yet to pick up a clean lap. He's got 5 incident points in 2 laps.
Oh, that's not good for Tyler Anthony. And with only 4 minutes left in the session, that's going to run down to the wire for him. Eric Dubé improves to 3rd place, meanwhile, as Mark Feil crosses the line and improves to 8th. That's a very good run from him in the number 77, but I think that's going to be an incident point picked up there. Nick McLaughlin, meanwhile, looks like he's gone a little bit faster, 27.8. Now into the 27s as he was in practice. Still not quite touching his qualifying time. There's some more improvements coming throughout the field. Paul Wildridge improves to 8th place. It looks like Kenny Duval is finished. Feil, Duhamel, Hilton, and Dubé have all finished their qualifying runs. Jack Clark having a bit of a problem there to end things off. Charles Sumner here, Justin. Let's see if he can put down a time. He's had a few issues so far in this session. It looks like he's getting to the end of this one all right.
Just avoided some more incident points right there. Just the very edge of that special zone. 129.5 it looks like. Still in the heart of the pack though, around 12th position. Decent starting spots compared to what he did last time at Suzuka, where he was involved in some attrition. Here's the problem for Tyler Anthony. He picked up not just an incident point, but a slowdown this lap. He's going to be right at the very limit here. This is the last time he's got a chance to put himself around the track to avoid an incident point and put himself on the board.
It's all on for Tyler Anthony. Eric Dubé back out on track and wasn't quite able to improve on that time, but he still has time, I think, to get another. No, actually, he's completed all 4 of his laps, so that's his run over. Eric Evans across the line, 1 minute 30.2. That's an improvement for him in terms of time, but not in terms of position. And that's very wide out of the final corner for Owen McLaughlin. He is not going to improve on 2nd place.
I think for McLaughlin in particular, this round has to be a bounce back after the trouble he was put into last time that really shuffled him down the points race. He was amongst the top 5 competitors, if I remember right, from last time out. Now he's all the way at the back end of the top 10. So it's this type of round, he needs to keep himself clean. He's got track position. Yes, it's not as close to the pole time, but he's got the 2nd spot to try and start off with a solid positioning compared to some of the others like Sumner, 12th position. Can he improve? No, it's 2/10 slower.
Well, Now we'll shift our attention to the last couple of drivers yet to set times here. Tyler Anthony, one of them. Is he going to hold on through the final couple of corners? Has he picked up any incident points over this one and only lap he could set? No, 1 minute 29.0. That time counts for him, and it's going to put him straight into P9, right at the last gasp.
He had another second in him, keep in mind, in practice. I think that was just him saying, you know what, I've picked up instant points on 3 consecutive laps. I've got to put in a time here to not start at the very back. May as well try and be a little careful. Just start where I may go and go from there. As Nick McLaughlin, he's already picked up several incident points throughout this lap 3 as well. Also picked up damage. That's also something we may see a fair bit of, as it looks like most of the drivers are done their qualifying laps.
Yep, looks like it. And there's been some really good performances to see there, particularly from Nick McLaughlin, obviously, Joey Tebbin and David Cristelli doing well in the top 10. Last couple of seconds now in the qualifying session. It's a hard cutoff here because we are running straight into the race session. Sumner is still out on track, but it looks like that lap is done. He's going to practice pit entry, which is going to be very important here when we get into the race. Let's go through the grid then. Pole position belongs to Nick McLaughlin in the number 62 for Cloud Valve Racing. Owen McLaughlin is going to start alongside him on the front row. Joey Tebbin is going to start alongside Eric Dubé. David Cristelli and Alec Bergstrom share row 3. It's going to be important for Bergstrom to get a good result here to maintain P2 in the championship. Kenny Duval and Paul Wildridge 7th and 8th, with Tyler Anthony and Dave Peterson rounding out the top 10.
Mark Files starts in 11th tonight with Sean Dormo in 12th position. Charles Sumner qualified 13th to start alongside Baron Hilton. Eric Evans starts 15th today with Jack Clark in the 16th position. Then it's Brian Hoskins in the 17th spot in the YS Motorsports machine. David Boucher was the last driver to set a time in the 1:38. He picked up about 4/10 in the end of the session. The rest of the drivers, David Hubert, Olivier Hartley, and Donald Olson. It's worth noting when it comes to Olson, he is not in the session, so 20 cars, it appears, will be starting today. Hubert and Hartley move up 1 spot apiece because of that.
They do indeed, and I can see that Hebert is on the grid, but looks like Oliver Hartley is taking his time getting onto the grid. Still got 43 seconds before the drivers have to pull away behind the pace car, so maybe he's just getting some final preparations in order, but we'll have to wait and see. Nick McLaughlin, one and only driver on cams here today, and he's used to finishing out in front. He'll be expecting more of the same here, but they're going to have to take some care here in the opening stanza of this race because the track is incredibly cold. These cars do have tire warmers, but a track temp of 19 degrees Celsius, 66 Fahrenheit, is certainly going to play havoc with the drivers in the opening laps.
This is even cooler, mind you, than what we've seen last time at Suzuka for these drivers. The grip level's obviously going to be very high because of the cool temperatures, but at the same time, it's going to take a few laps for some of the drivers to heat them up in particular. The main thing that has to be concerned in turn, spins possibly out of turn 1, possibly even turn 3, with the sharp corner and the amount of acceleration needed, we might see a lot of self-spins coming into the opening laps of this one.
Well, the opening laps are coming sooner than we expect because it's a short formation lap configuration here at the Red Bull Ring. The pace car is in the pits, and Nick McLaughlin will lead them away out of the final corner. When does he decide to go? Does he wait for the green flag, or does he catch everyone by surprise and go early? Everyone's now onto the start-finish straight, and Nick McLaughlin puts the hammer down. Green flag flies. We are racing for PRL Ferrari Challenge at the Red Bull Ring, and it's a great start from Nick McLaughlin. He can use the whole track coming into turn 1, side by side for second. Joseph Tebbin moves up into P2, up the inside of Owen McLaughlin. A very good start there for Joey. It's still side by side between Bergstrom and Cristelli as they come down to Remus for the first time. Have a look at the gap that Nick McLaughlin has gained already. Incredible stuff as it's almost 3 wide behind, side by side between Duval and Anthony. Just behind this pack here, and it's going to be a drag race on the way down to turn 4. It looks like Bergstrom just lost out on Cristelli there in Remus, and Tyler Anthony here will try to make up as many positions as he can. He's already up 2, biggest gainer on the lap, but Kenny Duval tries the Alex Albon line around the outside and gets into the gravel for his troubles.
Yeah, that line wasn't going to really stick, and I think Tyler Anthony played a little bit of cheekiness there, knowing he was going to back up, hoping that the driver above him would overcook the corner, expecting him to go for the dive. And guess what? Opening lap, but you mentioned how quick McLaughlin's pulled away. How about nearly 2 seconds up at the end of the first lap? This is unbelievable how good this start has been. The opening corners, he built up most of this gap.
Yeah, in qualifying he had 8 tenths on the rest of the field, so he's certainly got what it takes here to take another dominant victory today. But we won't speak too soon. We've still got over half an hour's worth of racing to go. The real battles are for second on back. Tebben holding on with David Cristelli now having to defend here from Alec Bergstrom. And they have got a very nice draft here on Eric Dubé. Bergstrom's going to have to look over his shoulder for Tyler Anthony, though, who looks to be on a bit of a charge. We're right on board with Anthony now as they come into Remus. Got to be careful on the curbs there. There's a very big sausage curb on the inside of that corner, which will send you sky high if you decide to cut the corner a little too much.
Yeah, if you're drivers like Tyler Anthony, you have to consider this is a very quick track with just the 9 corners. You're not going to be able to gain a position per lap normally unless there's some mistakes in front of you. Or you have battles such as this that help reel things in. Wildridge currently trying to fight things out with Dave Peterson to the outside lane here. This in turn slows both of them up and brings everyone else back on in and closes up the deficits. You see this with File in particular, nearly to the back bumper of the both of them already as they go back single file.
But once again, it is the outside with the advantage through that off-camber left-hander in the middle sector of the lap. So Peterson is starting to move up here. Mark File is going to try his best to get that back, though. A slightly narrower entry into Jochen corner, but it looks like it hasn't quite worked out for him as McLaughlin gets off to a proper pace now, 28.1 as up ahead, seeing, there's looks going on all throughout the field coming into these first turns, but it's just not going to happen yet. They've got to wait for the slipstream, got to concentrate on the exits of these turns.
As well as some of the aerodynamics you have to factor in as well. You see, even with the difference of the draft, drivers like Peterson know you have to try and break it a little bit, go a little bit defensive, just preferring that outside groove because the chance of the sends and the late breaks along the edge of the curbing, that could send them potentially both towards the edge of the runoff space, depending on how things are taken there. I think right now you just need to think big picture here if you're a driver. We talked a lot about the strategies that can come into play. You need to be able to pick your spots if you want to move up here in this type of a racetrack with how tight the circuit can get.
Yeah, and the drivers are going to have to think about pitting here as Eric Dubé and Owen McLaughlin side by side here. Oh, Dubé is absolutely going for it, and he ends up taking the move around the outside. Fantastic stuff there. You can use so much of the curb on the exit. Got to be careful, though, of the gravel trap. That is Eric Dubé now into the top 3, and it looks like David Cristelli fancies a look up the inside of Owen McLaughlin as well at Jochen Rindt and gets that move done. But could it be an over-under here from Owen? Maybe. He does have a slight run, but that's really compressed this order here for 4th place back. Could it be a move up the inside for McLaughlin? Maybe even a move up the inside for Tyler Anthony. He dives up the inside. Oh, and takes it almost. Holding the outside line, though, is Alec Bergstrom. Just enough room given. This is going to be very tight. Oh, Anthony trying to protect there from Kenny Duval. This is going to be difficult coming into Remus. It seems that Tyler Anthony is very confident under the brakes, but it's not quite working out for him at the moment.
A little bit dicey there, trying to clear himself in front of Kenny Duval as well. But you're right, Tyler Anthony seems to have figured things out, breaking wise to try and set it in. The problem's been trying to fully clear on by, especially with that outside groove. Already McLaughlin with a big block and a big send from Duval nearly across Anthony's nose at the same time.
Wow, there we go, and that's going to be Duval back up the inside there of Tyler Anthony. Goodness gracious, it's getting proper dicey, as you say. Mick McLaughlin is far away from all of this. He's stretched his lead out to 3.5 seconds. He's got nothing to worry about at all. The battling doesn't seem to be going on much for positions in the top 4. Really, it's for 6th on back that we're seeing at the moment for these fights. Bergstrom still holding on from Kenny Duval. We check out Joseph Tebben as he motors along in second place. It's been a very strong opening few laps here for Joey, and he'll stand to get a good result and some good championship points for his first proper race of this season.
Yeah, he's actually really impressed me with this start, because I know he was talking a little bit before, expecting McLaughlin and McLaughlin both to have that stellar pace we've seen from the early parts of the season, especially with the 62. But this race, he's outperformed one of those drivers. Has got a great start, and McLaughlin, again, for a second straight week, seems to be really struggling from the get-go, it seems, Reese. Already with that -3. Just seems to be something off when it comes to him with the 90 machine, and it's put him up for grabs from Bergstrom still, with Duval still, possibly even Anthony Wildridge Peterson, who are also still within range as an Erson.
Oh, goodness gracious. Kenny Duval is looking pretty optimistic there, but Alec Bergstrom saw him coming and hooked it up around the outside. So, holds on to 6th for now, but for how long exactly? Goodness gracious. We'll see what he can do here. It's still plenty of the race to go. We're only, nearly 7 or 8 minutes in, and we've already seen some very tight battling. Once the pits comes round, the drivers will have the face of their race changed. They're just trying to sort out their position at the moment, stake their claim in terms of their pace, and then they can focus on driving to a number and making sure that they nail that pit entry. Let's check out then Alec Bergstrom here as Kenny Duval lines him up for a move into turn 1. There's a little bit of a look, an attempt to unsettle Bergstrom, but we know from every single round so far this season, Alec Bergstrom is not easily ruffled. His consistency has continued to pay off for him. That's why he is second in the championship, only 3 points behind our current race leader.
Especially with sends like that a little bit in this grouping too, but so far I've been liking the flow from all these competitors. A very clean race, I should say, compared to what we've seen last time out. And you see these types of races here where these races can get themselves very calm, but also have some aggressive racing. But because in some sections you can go for some daring moves under the brakes, there hasn't been too many door-to-door contact sections compared to what we've seen at Suzuka, surprisingly, here for this one. No major incidents throughout the pack. That's a surprise after about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think the main thing to take away from that is Suzuka's nature. It's similar to the Red Bull Ring in that there's a lot of fast corners, but they often flow right into each other at Suzuka. You have a lot of space between a lot of the corners here at the Red Bull Ring, which allows a bit more of an opportunity to set up a proper move. Owen McLaughlin is going to have to look over his shoulder here because everyone seems to be attacking him at the moment. It's a good slipstream down the front stretch for Alec Bergstrom. Can he nail the exit out of Niki Lauda? McLaughlin hits that sausage curb, and it seems that the momentum is with championship second place. Alec Bergstrom is going to have to be forced into an outside line at Remus, but like we mentioned before, outside line, not necessarily the worst place to be, and if anything, he gets the move done before they get to the turn-in point. Excellent move there from Bergstrom.
Bergstrom played that nice and perfectly, just waiting for the right time for McLaughlin to pick his own line, peel him off said line before he can try and make the reactionary block. It's put now McLaughlin up for grabs again from Duval, and again, same line Duval did, but this time he overcooked said line.
Oh dear, McLaughlin's just going to drop down the order like a stone in a river and falls down to now 11th place as Mark File gets around the outside of him. Here's the replay, and Kenny Duval went for that move. It seemed like a bit of a late dive there from Duval, and McLaughlin, I think, saw that happening and thought, all right, I'll just run wide, but unfortunately too wide. The track is still very cool. There hasn't been much rubber laid down, especially on the outside of those corners, so evidently not where you want to be. I've just seen Alec Bergstrom has picked up a slowdown coming through the last couple of corners. He has lost that 5th place to Kenny Duval, and plenty of momentum lost now as Tyler Anthony thinks, oh, all right, I'd like a piece of that.
You can't afford to have major slowdowns like that here at this racetrack, and if you get a slowdown like that, you have about 30 seconds to try and get the penalty away. But the problem is with that, you might lose 2-3 seconds. If you have it down the middle of a straightaway, you get that initial trigger, and in turn, it can really lead to a lot of positions lost. And we've seen that exact result there. Bergstrom in particular, losing a ton of net time. Now 11 seconds back in the race leader. No one else up for grabs to try and pass him yet. That's the bright side for him right now. But Kenny Duval now has the clean air for the head of this pack.
That'll be crucial for him. We've seen that once the race has gotten into a rhythm, Duval has been very strong. So the clear air should be good for him. These GT3 spec Ferrari 488s, they don't have as much in terms of flippy up aerodynamic devices as, say, a Formula 1 car, but they do still get affected by aero wash when you're close up behind another car, especially at a track with a lot of fast corners like this one. So clear air will work to his advantage.
Absolutely, and it's a major discussion point even at the top levels. Some discussions had recently for various podcasts have had. That's been a major point of emphasis for drivers, is trying to factor in not just trying to figure things out for when you're in the head of a pack like this, but also when you're in the heart of said pack, to be able to know what to feel, to be able to know what you have to adjust in your driving lines. And especially in a series such as this, that's extremely critical to have that experience and know what you have to really adapt to as a competitor, especially under the brakes and in the corners, if you want to move ahead and try and maintain pace compared to some who may struggle and feel a lot of tightness possibly in the corners because of it.
Let's see how much tightness they feel here coming into turn 4. It's a very difficult hairpin, this one. Seems simple enough from the air, but the fact that it runs downhill means that you've got to brake a bit earlier for it than you think you need to. Seems that everyone's gotten through it nice and cleanly there, but through this double left-hander, this is the only place where the right side tires really get a workout. Seems that there's not much in the way of difference in terms of throttle pickup for a lot of these drivers now. They've settled into a rhythm. McLaughlin, who has fallen down to the back of this pack, I think has just decided, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm just going to try my best to complete this cleanly, see if I can make up any positions in the pit cycle.
Yeah, this is an absolute disaster for McLaughlin. I think the past couple around for McLaughlin, should say. It's to where he started off in the good starting position last time out, got involved in early incidents from the get-go, battling for second after the poor launch, has a not as bad launch today, immediately falls back once some of the tire wear factors in. It's like he's been in a free fall points-wise, and it's essentially gone from him being a championship contender to falling out of the conversation entirely in the span of 2 weeks.
Yeah, it hasn't been that good for Owen McLaughlin, but let's at least hope that he'll be able to get to the finish here, potentially make up a few positions if there's mistakes for other drivers further down the line. As it stands, though, he's at the back of this pack. He's not facing much pressure from behind. Sumner, Hilton, and Duhamel are the next battle pack behind, so it's there's still a fair gap back. And it seems that Sumner here is holding on very nicely to P12. He and Baron Hilton both racing in the Oval Series at the Precision Racing League. So road racing, not quite their main jam, you would say. But it's good for them to get some practice in. And Sumner has proven that he can get good results in road racing here. Coming down into the last couple of corners now. Oh, it actually looks like Hilton might be gearing up for a move potentially. He was gaining on Sumner through Jochen Rindt, but it seems that Sumner taking a little bit more of the track, will be on the track rather, on the exit.
Anything, he lost time in terms of the stopwatch by a couple 100s. The driver who gained the most out of that grouping was Duhamel, who was about 3/10 quicker. Help with some of the slipstream, but keep in mind, up the road, some of the other drivers like Dave Peterson, they're maintaining to be very bunched up and close. We're already around that pit window for drivers to be able to come in and get to the end from here. But obviously, as we've seen, Most of these drivers thinking maybe try and stretch it out, maybe get towards halfway, especially since there might be spots up for grabs if drivers like Wildridge start to wheel hop like that a bit under entry.
The downhill run through the hairpin didn't work out for Wildridge there, and we saw that Peterson was definitely in the draft as all. That's a bit of a mistake there for Wildridge, nearly putting a couple of wheels in the gravel. He'll want to try and minimize errors like that. He does hold on. Seems he's all right through the final sector of the lap, but he's a sitting duck down the back stretch towards Remus Corner. Have a look at this. This onboard view from the back shows you just how much of the curbs these drivers can use. And typically for the final corner, there is a little patch of gravel that is formed there where there's a little bit of a curb transition to the tarmac runoff area. They're kicking up a lot there, and it's sort of minimized the grip that the drivers have to deal with there. It looks like a good exit for Wildridge, though. And now I think Dave Peterson is going to have to look out for Mark File. File, one of those drivers who's just been gradually making up positions here.
Just biding his
one so far.
Yeah, just biding his time, I was about to say. Not too aggressive so far compared to his counterpart in Kenny Duval, I will say. Just trying to pick his spots and just keeping the consistent pace. He actually turned his fastest lap of the race last time by, interestingly enough, a 1:28.9. So he's getting better as the run goes on. If anything, he's got a better 5-lap average compared to everybody else except for Kenny Duval in this entire pack right now.
And speaking of Kenny Duval, he's just put the move on David Cristelli for 4th place, and Cristelli looked like he yielded there coming into the left-hander. Realized that Duval had a very good run on him and decided not to fight it. Here's the replay, and bumper to bumper through the hairpin, and with a slightly shorter line to the inside there for Kenny Duval, Cristelli just decides, okay mate, you can have that, and I'll see if I can pick up a slipstream and try to follow you forward, try and make an impression on the top 3.
A little bit of teamwork possibly there as well, knowing they continue to try and fight, or try to fight in general. That would hurt them long term to be able to keep up or try and close up at least the 87 of Duval. Looks like one driver's had an issue for the first time in Eric Evans at the end of the racetrack. The fighting back on. Here comes Bergstrom for a look.
Oh, not able to get the move done into Remus though. He'll have to wait another couple of corners there to get it done, and actually takes a bit of the runoff area on the exit too. So Bergstrom pushing a little bit too hard there. And you did mention Eric Evans. Well, he's decided to come into the pits, I think, just to get his service done.
After a spin into the pit entry, keep in mind, if you look at the GSRC replay machine, I don't think it was intended at first for the number 30, because he's towards the back of the main group at the moment. Ends up running toward the line, gets a little bit tight on that entry towards the second last corner, loops it around the grass, right towards the access lane, and eventually he says, you know what, I'm just going to back it up. I've lost the time. I'll take my pit stop now, I guess.
Yes, and if you're in a battle pack like that pack for 4th to 8th, you're going to have to be careful coming into the pit lane, because the entry line requires you to slow right down through the penultimate turn. And have a look at that, Alec Bergstrom deciding to come into the lane himself. He's followed in by Dave Peterson, so those guys will fall back for now. But with the 40% fuel tank restriction in this series, you are forced to make one stop for fuel. Tires don't really factor into it. Oh no, Bergstrom! Just overshot his box, and that's going to cost him upwards maybe of a second in time. It's a team call to come into the pits, meanwhile, as Sean Duhamel does a slight overshoot of his box. Looks like Bergstrom is going to hold on to that position from Peterson, but how much will that overshoot cost him further down the line?
You see the net lane time, about 1.3 seconds lost because of that overshoot of the box. That's going to be very impactful, I think, in the overall complexion of the pack, because this might lose him 1 or 2 spots in the big picture of things based on how things were going in the pack. Just needs to make sure to try and get a good lap out of the pit lane. Don't make any mistakes, especially with the fuel difference now in the tank, especially knowing a lot of the drivers are going to be pushing hard, possibly to get themselves in. Meanwhile, Nick McLaughlin, he still has a decent window, about maybe 3-4 laps until he really would have to come in, or he's 10 seconds up.
It's an incredible performance once again from Nick McLaughlin, just driving away from the rest of the field. It's like a 2020 Hamilton or a 2013 Sebastian Vettel, the kind of performances we've been seeing from Nick McLaughlin here. I'm making so many F1 references because, of course, with iRacing had an F1 track. And he's already starting to come up to some potential lapped traffic. More activity in the pits, meanwhile. Looks like Paul Wildridge, Mark Feil, Baron Hilton, and Brian Hoskins have come into the lane. Wildridge and Feil in their box, and looks like pulled up nicely there for Baron Hilton. Remember, he was battling with Charles Sumner just before. Have a look at the exit from the box there for Mark Feil. He gets Wildridge on the exit. That's excellent.
Good exit indeed, and that's even with Wildridge. A little bit of a longer stop net overall, but Feil in turn able to pull up and ahead with that little difference on the fuel mark, a little bit less in the tank. Will he be able to make it to the end? That is for position now. This is right exactly what we mentioned with the potential of the cycling with how things were on the exit.
Yeah, and that's Bergstrom there, managing to get past Wildridge, but remember, Bergstrom overshot his pit box, so he would otherwise not be battling with these guys if he'd executed that stop perfectly.
Exactly what I was trying to mention right there. Because that 1 second, instead of leading this pack and having a nice calm entry through that next corner, you have to fight hard to try and even get towards the start of that said pack. The rest of the leaders are starting to come in. McLaughlin in, Dubé in, Duval in, Cristelli in, Anthony coming in this time by. And McLaughlin nice and calm, it looks like. Very dialed in to just make sure he's off and away on the gas. 10.7.
Nice and smooth pit stop there for Nick McLaughlin. He'll come out of the pits in third overall, but will filter back into the lead of this race, barring any big errors. I hope I don't commentators curse him there. Looks like the majority of the drivers now have come into the lane. We've got Anthony, Duval, Sumner, and Jack Clark in the lane at the moment, and most of them exiting there. But Joey Tebbin here, out with Owen McLaughlin, Eric Dubé, David Cristelli, and Baron Hilton. Those are the drivers yet to come into the lane.
Yeah, what a drive for Tebbin, all you can really say. McLaughlin, big time struggles today already, at least a corner and a half plus behind him. Just looking to try and close things out to be at least in the mix for the 6th to 10th pack potentially. Now things fare out, but it's worth noting as well with some of the strategies. Kenny Duval had an 18-second pit stop, one of the longest in the entire field right now. He went from potentially leading this pack and battling for the podium to being out of the conversation entirely, 1 second back at Tyler Anthony.
Yeah, it didn't quite go well for Kenny Duval, did it? So he's been forced now down into 11th overall. We'll see where he filters out once Tebbin, who's making his stop, and McLaughlin coming in, Dubé and Cristelli. I wonder how long they are going to push this. Let's see where these guys end up filtering out. Nick McLaughlin goes back into the race lead. 10.7 second stop for him. That's actually the fastest stop we've seen apart from David Hebert. And Tebbin, that looks like a little bit of a slow getaway from the box for him, but nonetheless making it through nicely and back out onto the racetrack. Got to be careful not to cross over before that blue line. So Eric Dubé still in third place, but we'll see how much time he can make up here. He's got another lap here of rhythm to work with, has Dubé. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see if he can get it done. And this pack has really tightened up again for 5th, hasn't it? Bergstrom has now filtered back into 5th place. Feil, Wildridge, Peterson, Tyler Anthony, who has yet to come into the lane. Oh, no, actually, sorry. Misreading my timing there. He hasn't made up any positions.
I was about to say, though, Owen McLaughlin made up a significant amount of time where he was struggling to hold on to this pack before the window. Now he's in towards the rear end of it still. But because of the amount of time he took in the pit box, only a 10.5, which is the quickest out of anybody in the field, he's now got a little bit of a lighter car. But the problem is going to be, how are his tires with how he drove this race early on? Already bobbling through the middle of the sector right now. The Eagle Vision Racing machine right now has to essentially gain a lot of the spots back if he wants to get a good points day here.
Yeah, well, he's got a nice draft train ahead of him. to try and make use of. Will he be able to get it done on Tyler Anthony? Runs a little bit deep through Jochen Rindt, but hooks up the exit nicely. This is a proper line of cars here for fifth on back. It's a proper midfield fight. There's 6 cars involved in this fight here. And I have to say, with Alec Bergstrom now towards the front of the pack, it seems like he might start driving away as long as he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, Bergstrom, I think, is in a solid spot, at least to get up to Cristelli. Right now, Dubé a little bit too far out of range. Some looks there. McLaughlin nearly hitting the back bumper of Tyler Anthony as well in terms of how hard he was going into the brakes. So these drivers starting to get really aggressive here, knowing it's points paying time pretty soon. We're within 6 estimated to go. This time by about 8 minutes to go on the clock, meaning there's not too much time to really plan things out. If you need to go, you need to go now.
A little bit of a gap now forming between these guys as Peterson takes a bit of a wide entry there into the left-hander. Wildridge just up ahead, starting to gear up for a move on Mark File potentially. Usually this track sees many passes, but the drivers have been taking their time getting these moves together. Let's see how this works out then for Mr. Wildridge through the last corner. Coming around to begin the next lap, and it's going to be all about the exit from Niki Lauda here. Potential move already being formed here. And up the inside he goes, but there's room given by both drivers. Off on the exit, that's going to give a big advantage to Owen McLaughlin. That side-by-side running on board with him. He's going to have to try and thread the needle here. Might only be able to make up one position. Manages to get by Dave Peterson. He's going to stick to the inside. Tyler Anthony going defensive. Oh, goodness. McLaughlin going tight on the inside, and that's going to give the advantage right back.
Smart play for Dave Peterson, even being forced up towards the Sanchez curve with all that space given despite that. Able to still use a little bit of the deeper brakes to send it on in, make it stick. Kenny Duval, again, making it work for the inside. And just like that, McLaughlin right back where he started before the pit window. Very back of the train, looking to hold on after another send to the inside.
Back down to 11th for Owen McLaughlin, but Kenny Duval showing that once again he's one of the strongest drivers here when it comes to overtakes at that turn 4 hairpin. Meanwhile, the battle between File and Wildridge for 6th place is really gearing up. Could be a potential move for these guys. They can afford to run side by side through a couple of corners. They've got a nice gap to the drivers ahead. And the same can be said for Cristelli and Bergstrom just up ahead of these guys. That is the next battle up on track. Mark File making up 5 places in this race. He is the biggest gainer in the field. It's been a very strong race for him. Looks like Wildridge gears up the exit of Niki Lauda corner very nicely, but File's going to have to start looking over his shoulder here. Will he go defensive coming into Remus? The drivers will know now that definitely the outside line is where you want to be if a move is made, and it looks like Wildridge isn't going to get it done there as there's a move up the inside. The number 35 of Dave Peterson trying on Kenny Duval, and it looks like Duval actually taking that place around the outside. He's continuing to make up places here as Duval. He's down 2 from where he started, but the pit cycle didn't quite work out for him with that overly long pit stop, but he's wasting no time getting himself back in order.
Yeah, looking pretty confident in particular right now. The tough thing for Duval is he looked to be having one of his better runs of the season, had that extra bit of time in the pit box, and I think that's really cost him some points on the table. But at the very least, I think he can get up to Anthony. We'll see if he'll be able to get up to Wildridge as well as File's draft. But outside of that, Duval's been very confident, it seems, on trying to make things work under the brakes, in particular to the inside drivers for some sends. And he's not been afraid to get very close to the fenders of their cars as well to do it.
It's been a very intense race for Kenny Duval. Under 5 minutes to go now in the race. Should be looking at 4 laps remaining or thereabouts. Owen McLaughlin, Nick McLaughlin. Sorry, there's two McLaughlins in the field with slightly different last names. It certainly produces a little bit of confusion, but that lead for Nick is just, I have no words to describe it. It's out to 17.5 seconds now, as there's side-by-side here. Tyler Anthony still trying to make up those places around the outside of Paul Wildridge at Remus. Will he be able to hold the outside here at turn 4? Kenny Duval is lurking in the background. He will take advantage if these guys continue to run side-by-side. It's very deep there for Tyler Anthony, but he gets it done on Wildridge around the outside. Brilliant move there, but this is now a proper 3-car fight. Duval smelling blood.
One of the few times we've seen right there, drivers being able to stick to the outside through to turn 4 today. Usually the driver who's backed it up a little bit on the inside or sent it a little bit deeper and forced a mistake from that outside driver has gone off to the very edge of the rumble strips, had to turn it sharply to the right to avoid going off the racetrack and lost a bit of time. That time, Anthony just picked the right mark to be able to send it in and just stick to the grip. And I think that's one of the benefits right now. The main thing when it comes to Duval now, has to keep to that script, and it looks like right now Wildridge going to move to the side. He's got a black flag. He's got a black flag.
Yep, that's a slowdown there for Paul Wildridge. I saw him take an awful lot of the inside.
And it's not just a slowdown, though, Reese. It's a full black flag in sim.
Oh, no.
That is incident points.
Oh, that's such a shame there for Paul Wildridge. He's still giving up time to these drivers, and even now he's going to have to come back into the pits to serve that penalty. The first driver so far to fall afoul of the incident limit.
Charles Sumner might also be at risk of that because he's had a slowdown penalty for about 25 seconds now. He's towards 12th position and has not yet cleared the slowdown yet. He's at risk of getting a black. He just, I think now, just cleared it.
All right, just in time. So let's see if Sumner doesn't visit the pits as well before the end of this race. I'm impressed that that the drivers have managed to keep their incident points down here as we get 3 laps to go here for Nick McLaughlin. The lead has continued to extend. He's pulled out another 7/10 on Joey Tebbin. It's now over 18 seconds, that lead that he's got, all alone on his on this track. It's effectively a hot lapping session for Nick McLaughlin at the moment.
Yeah, the London, Ontario-based driver has been lightning quick the past couple weeks from the get-go. These tracks have matched precisely his style, even driving one-handed right now to make sure he goes on through the corners. A little bit of the over-under method some drivers use in open-wheel racing with that road course-style wheel. It's been incredible how he's been able to nail these corners in terms of his grip, in terms of how confident he's been under the brakes. He knows every single line, it seems, to a T. Not too many bobbles at all from this car. He's been confident from the start.
Keeping it nice and smooth in the Clairval Ferrari. There's been 0 mistakes from Nick McLaughlin from pretty much the whole time we've been seeing him racing in 2022 Season 2. And got a good view there with his triple screen set up side to side, but he'll be focusing up ahead because they're starting to come up to a bit of lap traffic in the form of David Boucher, and pace difference between Boucher and McLaughlin is like 3 seconds or so. But we focus back to 7th place, Kenny Duval. He's got Tyler Anthony on the back of him. Duval has now made his way back up to his qualifying position. Very good pace there for Kenny. He might be thinking what might have been. Oh my goodness, bumper to bumper contact. Anthony got an excellent exit there. He's going to go up the inside at Jochen Rindt. Duval might hold on around the outside. They make contact. Duval goes off the track. But that's moved on. No.
That's Tyler Anthony with a black flag because of all the contact there. Anthony's not going to be happy there with the door-to-door. Coming to the white flag. Not a lot of time to even try and serve it.
Goodness gracious. He's going to have to try and hold on here for a place. Oh, man. That's a big shame there for Tyler Anthony. He might even end up losing a couple of positions on the final lap thanks to that. He's just going to have to try and hold on as best he can. If you can't serve a drive-through penalty before the end of the race, you will get demoted down the field. Time will be added onto your race time.
Charles Sumner in the same situation, also got the black flag coming to the white flag. It looks like for now, Anthony just trying to maintain some of the pace, maybe with that factor, but Nick McLaughlin, he's been lightning fast.
That he has. One more apex complete, and across the start-finish line he will go. It is win number, how many now? Just a lot for Nick McLaughlin here in the Precision Racing League Ferrari Challenge. Brilliant victory once again by over 20 seconds from Joseph Tebben, who's making his way through the final corner himself. But the battling is going on here for Alec Bergstrom. He's going to try and gear it up here on David Cristelli. He's been on the back of Cristelli for the entire second half of the race, just about. Doesn't look like he's going to get it done, though, but still, a 5th place finish for him. That's going to keep his championship hopes alive.
Dave Peterson in the other pack right behind him also just got a black flag in the final sector before the checkered as well. A lot is going to change here once things get sorted out, I think, by the sim, because plenty of drivers in the final 2 minutes picked up either slowdowns or penalties in general.
Yeah, there's, once all the drivers cross the line, the adjustments will be made, but Nick McLaughlin with absolutely no concerns of that nature. Brilliant victory for him. So we'll check out the unofficial race results and see if there are any changes applied thanks to those penalties. There shouldn't be any change for the top 3 at least. Nick McLaughlin taking victory by 20.8 seconds over Joey Tebben. Eric Dubé's going to round out the top 3 there. Close between Cristelli and Bergstrom for 4th, but Cristelli won that battle. Mark File finishes in 6th place, with Kenny Duval coming home 7th across the line. Owen McLaughlin, Paul Wildridge, and Sean Duhamel will round out the top 10.
Ryan Haskins, after all that, sorted up to 11. Tyler Anthony drops down to 12 with the time penalty applied. Dave Peterson drops to 13th. Jack Clark finished in 14th, with Eric Evans in 15th. Charles Sumner dropped all the way to 16th as a result there, with Barrett Hilton finishing behind him in 17th. David Boucher finishes in 18th. David Hebert 19th, and 2 drivers did not take the green. Oliver Hartley, Donald Olson are those 2 drivers who DNS'd.
Indeed, they didn't even take the start, did Hartley and Olsen. Goodness gracious, what an interesting race that was. And we'll wait and see if the drivers come in for a chat with us. But in terms of Joey Tebben, he's talking to us, and he reckons that it's his best result in the Precision Racing League ever. His best result to date has been a 3rd place in Formula 3, 2nd place on the road in the Ferraris. He'll certainly be happy with that one, Justin.
I think so too. He really, really performed well today, where I think he, from the get-go with that start, as well as that qualifying performance, really put him in the positive light for today. And in turn, he was just able to not make any major mistakes, keep things on the road, and in turn, put himself 2nd step of the podium behind Nick McLaughlin,
who we will have a chat to now. G'day, Nick. It's another dominant victory for you. No alternative pit lanes, no speed boost zones for you to take, but it seems like you didn't really need it. It was a commanding performance.
Hey, evening, gentlemen. I was keeping my eyes peeled, see if there's any funny business to be had, but no, it's a pretty straightforward track. I feel really comfortable around here, and it definitely showed in the car. So not too much of a race for me, really.
Yeah, well, it did seem that a lot of drivers had trouble with the incident limit there right at the end. How were you approaching this place, considering that it can be quite easy to pick up off tracks here?
With the amount of laps I've put in here, I really got comfortable with how far I could push the track. I think I only picked up 1 incident through the race, but it's a very easy track to go over that limit and rack them up real quick. Especially when you're in the mix with other drivers and trying to make moves, they're very easy.
Well, in terms of the championship, you don't have any points to drop at the moment, thanks to a DNS earlier on in the season. So certainly the advantage is with you as we get into the second half of the season.
Yep, I don't have any wiggle room. Anyways, I know, I think Bergstrom's still, I'm not sure where this finish puts him, but I know if he misses a round, he gets to drop like a 28-point round or something, so it helps him. I cannot afford a bad round at this point.
So the pressure is certainly on, but considering your performance tonight, we're sure that you'd be able to weather it. Before we let you go, Nick, anyone you'd like to thank?
Thank you guys for the broadcast and PRL, of course. Shout out to Tebin. I think this was his first race with us, and he put on quite the performance, so welcome. And Eric Dubé for his third.
Oh, that's Nick McLaughlin, their race winner by over 20 seconds here at the Red Bull Ring. Next up, we do have Joey Tebin with us. Justin's going to have a chat to him about his best PRL result yet.
Yes, indeed, Joey. Welcome back to the PRL, your first race in a long time, and you end up finishing second step of the podium. How are you feeling after this one? Finishing in contention from the get-go with the starting spot, taking so well.
Well, this is as good as I could have expected, honestly. Nick was in a league of his own this whole time. I was honestly just hoping for a podium. I looked at the roster because I was joining late. I looked at the season results beforehand. I knew some of the drivers because I've raced with them in the F3 seasons before, and I thought I knew my place, but I finished a little bit higher than that, so I'm pretty happy with second.
Now, the intriguing thing also is going to be that we have to ask is, how was your balancing act with the incident points? Because in the final couple minutes alone, some of your competitors in the pack behind you, at least 2 or 3, did pick up time penalties as a result of off tracks.
Well, I was worried about that because every time I come to this track, I mean, honestly, basically every track, my worst habit is I just load up the off tracks at all times. But I was taking it easy, at least so I thought, and I only accumulated 9 by the end, so I was nowhere near the penalty that I thought I was going to get. So I think just taking it easy worked out for me. Luckily, I wasn't battling wheel to wheel with anybody and pushing too hard, really, ever. So I kept it under the limit, and we kept second.
With that, congratulations once again on the podium finish today, Joey. Welcome back to PRL action.
Thank you, Justin.
Joey Tebin finishes second today. Eric Dubé had a strong run as well. He finished in third today. He's with Reese.
He is indeed. Welcome, Eric. Congratulations on the podium. 4th place start for you, and seemed from the outside that it wasn't much of an eventful race with all of the battling going on behind you, but still a very challenging place, this Red Bull Ring.
Oh, yeah, thank you, guys. That was a hard one. I had about the same pace as Joey in front of me. I keep for the entire race the second and a half between us, and I just can keep it. So I'm pretty happy with the result.
Do you think there's going to be more podiums coming for you further on in the season as drivers have to get their season back on track?
Yeah, also, I didn't have much seat time for the past 3 weeks. So in my case, I'm new in SimRacing, so I really need a lot of seat time to be competitive. But I'm looking towards to sorry for my bad English. I'm a French guy, but yeah, I'm looking toward to get some more podium to the end of the season.
I think your English is perfectly fine, Eric. Congratulations once again for the podium. Who do you have to thank for it?
First, I'd like to thank my wife, Anjali, who let me play in this crazy world. And also like to thank my teammates, Tommy Brisson, who helped me a lot through the last years. So I thank you for the great broadcast and the guys at PRL.
That's Eric Dubé there, 3rd place on the road here at the Red Bull Ring. We're going to step aside very briefly here on the Global Sim Racing channel as we get ready for the next series. Thursday nights are absolutely fun here in the Precision Racing League. Formula 3 coming up very shortly.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel. Thursday nights at the Precision Racing League, we move to Formula 3 action, and we go from Austria to Australia. The Phillip Island circuit plays host to Formula 3 tonight. A brilliant track with plenty of history, a fast and flowing layout. Let's find out more about it with the track guide.
Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening Duin. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around.
Well, Justin, Phillip Island, a brilliant track, and I'm not just saying that because I'm Australian. This place has certainly shown its worth as one of the top race tracks in the Southern Hemisphere. A super fast and flowing layout, but still with plenty of overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely, especially down the Gardner Strait, a good opportunity for drivers as well, potentially the run up through Honda in Siberia. Those are very dangerous sections, though, because it's very easy for drivers to overrun the corner, trying to make a pass at a Duhan corner. Even more so, a chance for drivers to launch it on into the sand trap coming out of the southern loop. Also, Honda. Expect drivers to try and dive bomb it aggressively, possibly to the right side of the track. It can potentially lead to some stack-ups as well heading towards Siberia. That section, always so dangerous. But it's important to keep the flow up through Hayshed, Lukey Heights, and MG if you want to really keep on maintaining, especially if you want to try and take a risk and send it up through MG with how tight it is, because this track has plenty of those opportunities, yes, for passes, but there's plenty more for drivers to completely loop it around at any time, anywhere with a send.
Indeed, there's plenty of grass and gravel on the outside of this track. Built in the early 1960s was Phillip Island, and certainly still a track of its time. Let's check out how things stack up in the Global or the Pro Drivers Championship here in the PRL. Alex Fournier leading by 5 points over Michael Diaz and Justin Negrete, only a single point behind. And Fournier is going to have to back up his Imola win with more first places here in the latter half of the season, because Diaz, Negrete, and Michael Overbay as well, they are very consistent drivers, and they've snuck up on the likes of Fournier and Sebastian Coffret.
Absolutely. Fournier, remember, a champion of the series before. The AM standings also have been intriguing because the top 3 are separated by 7 points. Greg Doucette ran the best out of them with 35 points scored in the class. Jonathan Almar picked up a strong points gathering last time too. That propelled him past Neil Alexander in the standings. But drivers like Matthew Gunderson and Richard Swindells, they scored about 20, 30 points at the very max for Gunderson, should say, and that seen him tumble a little bit down in the standings. In turn, it's slowly starting to break away amongst those top 3, but it's still anybody's race for the championship amongst the top 5 with that 13-point difference.
It's also anybody's race in the team standings as well. Atomic Racing Electron leads their sister team by 3 points, but TQ Engineering and SDS Racing Team Blue are right in the thick of it, as are Throttle Thursday. That top 5 only separated by 10, and with such a big field, with such drama as we've seen in the PRL Formula 3 series in the past in this season, that standings graphic could look incredibly different by the next round. But we are in qualifying now. Last 5 minutes of qualifying for a 28-lap race. Open setups, and the incident rules are the same as the Ferraris. Drive-through penalty at 13, disqualification at 17 incidents, and a bonus point for pole, fastest lap, and 3 incidents or less. This is going to be a difficult one for the drivers, though, because, as we mentioned, Phillip Island, there's no tarmac runoffs at this track. Might be a little bit of tarmac runoff at the exit of Honda, but that's just about it. As we briefly check out the conditions there, it's a 26 degrees Celsius track with an 18 degrees Celsius air temperature, so air temperature pretty much the same as it was at the Red Bull Ring, but this being Australia, there's more UV hitting the racetrack, so there's it's a little bit warmer, 78 degrees Fahrenheit.
A little bit more humid indeed at 61% as well. The wind's currently gusting around 5 miles an hour, 8 kilometers an hour, heading towards Honda in Siberia, for reference in terms of which direction they're heading towards. But here's a surprise. Sebastian Coffret, he is continuing to lead the qualifying session. Just about 10 minutes in towards the bottom of the clock, he had put in a time in the 121.7s. He's since then topped that time in the 121.6s. He has got the pole time over Juan Coffret by about nearly 0.2 of a second, even with some of the off-tracks such as this with the final moments of his run. The Coffrets, after a very bad run last time, 3 of them are inside the top 5 right now.
Well, the Coffrets are definitely ones with pace in this series, at least in terms of one lap. They're going to have to sort out their issues in the races, though, if they want to reflect those results. Raymond Day, meanwhile, in 9th place at the moment. It's a very good result so far for the NinjaTrader Esports number 77. Roberto Coffret down in 20th at the moment. He's wanting to improve ever so slightly as he comes onto the front stretch and ends that qualifying run there. Don't know if he'll be able to get back out. There is still 2 minutes left in the session, and it's not a hard cutoff in Formula 3, so as long as you cross the line before the clock hits 0, you will be able to finish your lap. Michael Overbay, 1.5 seconds off his fastest lap at the moment, but Overbay still keeping himself in a good position in the championship. He has 1 race win to his name so far this season.
He also, however, has one of those drops to factor in for the opening round of the season, a 23-point drop currently you have to factor in with some of those adjustments coming in. So he has that drop already utilized from one of the earlier rounds. It's just a matter of making sure, honestly, Reese, you don't want to bank on it, so to speak. You don't want to end up having to rely on something that early, because you end up potentially putting yourself to the pressure spot of having to finish top 10 every race out to be able to contend for the title. Here's a look at Brad Miller, his teammate, looking to move up from 26th. A little bit quicker, yeah, so 122.707.
That works out very nicely there for Brad Miller. We'll see if he can commit to this lap in the final minute. Moisés Caraballo, meanwhile, in third place. It's been a very good run in qualifying for the 278 so far, and he's getting a slipstream assistance from his Precision Racing Esports teammate. And, not quite an improvement there for Caraballo, but he'll be released to continue on this lap. It's just about flat out through Dewan Corner to start off the lap. Richard Swindell's here demonstrating pit entry. It's a very difficult one here at Phillip Island. Not only is it narrow, but you have to navigate a couple of turns on the way in, and it's very easy to lock the brakes because that pit limiter line comes up a lot quicker than you think.
I think for many of the drivers, because of how tight that section is going to be for the entry to the pit lane, you need to keep your eyes open, because if you end up having someone in front of you lock up the brakes during the pit window who is, say, even 5-6 positions up the road, you might not be able to react in time, because it's a very bottleneck section, which can really trouble some of the drivers today. So I think that's going to be a major trouble spot today too, with all the drivers and their strategies. But the checker flag waving, the drivers need to complete their current laps. About 7 or 8 drivers on circuit, including Roberto Cofre, 21st on the board.
Yeah, not able to improve on his final lap. James Carter is on another hot lap at the moment. Carter, we inadvertently checked in with him a couple of times during the Ferrari race, and he is certainly looking reasonably comfortable on the entry to MG, but the exit didn't quite go his way. Oh, that's a big change. Moisés Caraballo has just taken pole position. He ran a time 7/100ths faster than Sebastian Cofre. Carter abandons that lap, but that's a big change right in the dying moments of the session, Justin.
I think you can thank Michael Diaz for that, with that slipstream you talked about down the Gardner Straight in particular. When he elected to move to the side, gave him a slingshot effect, essentially, with the draft, got a little bit quicker down the straight, and I think that's the main difference. Even though Caraballo, to keep up that momentum, was slipping and sliding through the Sutter Loop, it was still enough, I think, for him to really maximize the overall time for the straightaway to get that pole spot. Absolutely huge for Caraballo to pick up the pole spot.
Caraballo is in top form here at Phillip Island, and his teammate Michael Diaz, P2 in the championship, will get 4th at the end of that. The Cofres, Sebastian and Juan, split them. That is going to be an incredible start here for the PRL Formula 3 at Phillip Island. I am so looking forward to this. I always love watching races at one of my home tracks here on the iRacing service. So much high speed, so much fast and flowing action, but also potential for so much drama on the way into turn 1. And this is how they are going to start on the grid. It is Moisés Caraballo who snatches pole position away from Sebastian Cofre, with Juan Cofre sharing the second row with Michael Diaz. Michael Cofre is going to start alongside Stephen Ritters on the third row. Laurent-Christophe Deruel with a very good performance there, getting into the top 10. 7th place for him alongside Michael Overbay. It's Raymond Day and Alex Fournier, championship leader, who round out the top 10.
Justin Negrete finishes or qualified in 11th. He'll start alongside Takeshi Kita. Robert Ridgway, the former AM competitor for the championship title, will start alongside the top AM driver in qualifying, Ho Yin Leon, with a massive advantage over some of the competitors. Byron Daly, Max Chablis will be the sandwich between them and some of the AM drivers like Colin Heffernan in 17th, Brett Thurman in 18th, Manuel Vargas in 19th, Brian Lowe is in 20th.
Next of our pro competitors, Roberto Cofre is going to start outside the top 20 there alongside Ryan Berry. Greg Doucette, the one of the top drivers in the AM Championship standings, alongside Michael Blaise, with Brad Miller and Fernando Rodriguez sharing the lucky 13th row. James Carter and Richard Swindell's 27th and 28th. Then it's Gunderson and Karanges who round out the top 30. Final few spots belong to Neil Alexander and Matt Dinsmore, last drivers to set qualifying times. Tyler Gore did not get a qualifying time in, but he will take to the grid. All right. This run down to turn 1, it's a bit of an atypical start to the lap here at Phillip Island. If you talk about tracks that single seaters usually race at, it's a very fast and flowing start to the lap through Dewan Corner and into the southern loop. And if you're running side by side, if you bang wheels with another car, especially in open wheelers, you are going to be sent straight off. And it is the re-entry coming back into turn 2 that's going to be a sticking point for these drivers. There's no wall separating you from turn 2. So if someone goes off at turn 1, midfield beware. The revs rise. We get ready to start here. And we are away. Good start. Good initial launch from Sebastian Coffret. He's going to draw alongside Moises Caraballo as they come down to turn 1 for the first time, trying to widen the entry to Dewan Corner as much as possible. Flat out in these Formula 3s. Coffret is going to have to yield there as the field streams through the first couple of corners, already seeing hints of a driver off there going through the grass. It's going to be a reasonably safe re-entry for Neil Alexander, but the top of the field, as tight as they will ever be coming into Honda. Have a look at that, going 3 wide just about for 5th place on back. This is the heavy braking zone on the racetrack. Oh, there we go. There's some contact. 2 drivers off. Raymond Day is one of them.
Alex Fournier made the contact there, trying to send it 3 wide into Honda, and that's a major risk point, right? And it looks like it was tire-to-tire contact. Major trouble for Day. Ryan Berry also still stuck back there. A couple others just now are regathering themselves. Day goes from good starting position to 32nd as the rest of the leaders trying to build up momentum. 8th on ahead have broken away.
And it's been a good start for Michael Diaz. He makes it into 3rd place. So now Sebastian Coffret is in a Precision Racing Esports sandwich as they come to the end of lap 1. Big lockups coming into MG throughout the field, but it looks like the field has made their way through cleanly. Stephen Ritters trying his best to make his way up through here. Long Christophe Deruel up ahead of him. There's the move up the inside, coming into Dewan Corner. Will he get it done? Running side by side is the number 21, but it looks like just getting it done into Southern Loop. Widens out the entry, and that crest in the middle of the corner is one of the places where the drivers will certainly make a ton of mistakes. Meanwhile, up the front, Caraballo is still holding on to the lead, but only just. Sebastian Coffret trying his best to get around the outside in Honda, but good defense there from Caraballo to start things off.
Sebastian Coffret, top 5 in the pro standings with the DNF last time. Big for him to try and bounce back today. He's hungry, though, for this race lead. 2 top 5s coming into today. Had a chance for his first pole, had it ripped away in the final couple seconds or so, or rather his 3rd pole to tie Alex Fournier in the standings. It's been essentially an aggressive dive here and there already from in the first couple laps. I've noticed through the dual hand corner, just hasn't been able to get fully around to get things done.
And a couple of small errors there on the way out of MG for Coffret. He's lost touch with Caraballo now and could be under threat for 2nd. Meanwhile, we check out Juan Coffret rounding out the top 5. He's got Overbay and Ritters chasing him. This is fantastic here. Big draft down the front straight at Phillip Island. It's going to be the outside and Dewan Corner for Michael Overbay as Caraballo sets the pace. 1 minute 22.6. Oh boy, this is close. And it looks like they've just sorted themselves out there. Juan Coffret having to yield to Michael Overbay, but cleanly done.
That was very sketchy, I will say that, for Stephen Ritters, who had a very poor launch, lost a ton of his spots to the opening corners. You have to be a little bit smarter there. That is not a section you go 3 wide in. Speaking of 3 wide, Ritters just had to dodge a diving Ruel who just dive bombed it from 5 car lanes back into a Coffret. What in the world?
My goodness gracious. Yeah, that looks like absolute carnage down there at Honda. Wow. All right, that's going to be worth a replay for sure. Let's check out what Deruel did.
He tries to dive into Honda, not just past 1 car, but watch this. This is a very deep sin, almost like he missed the braking mark. Tries to go right here, misses 1 car, dives underneath 1, tries to pass the 2nd, missing the corner regardless, comes across there, and a couple others in the reactionary moments check up and bounce off each other as well. That was not a smart move, and Juan Coffret is off track because of it.
Yeah, it looked like Deruel just completely missed the braking point there. You got to brake a little earlier than you think for the Honda hairpin. Those brake markers can be a bit misleading. And Kofre now has pulled off the circuit. I think that might be a retirement for Juan. That's a big shame for him.
You don't expect that this early on, even with the missed braking mark. A very tough moment for that to happen after such a good start for him. But now things get interesting towards this grouping second pack, because in part of that, Michael Overbay leads pack 2. Ritters is still keeping up with the draft because of his dodging abilities. Byron Daly has quietly moved up 8 spots in 3.5 laps.
Byron Daly was very strong at Imola, wasn't he? We remember that from last week. Former NASCAR Pro Series competitor here on the iRacing service, and trying his hand at some road racing, and turns out being quite successful at it. Meanwhile, Overbay and Ritters very close here coming into Lukey Heights. If you pick up the throttle a little earlier out of Lukey Heights, you can dive up the inside. Oh, yes.
Sebastian Kofre just spun in front of a couple cars in third on his own, and that nearly got him wrecked in the battle we were watching.
Oh, goodness. Sebastian Kofre, another mistake for him. And he is a sitting duck down the front stretch here with the double draft here for Overbay and Ritters. Are they going to make it 3 wide? Ritters goes for it on Overbay, while Overbay goes for it on Kofre. Up the inside, coming into Doohan Corner. And Kofre might have to yield here. He's already lost the place to Overbay. He's going to switch to the outside and try and widen the entry to keep Ritters behind him. Looks like he is going to do that. Late apex. And that will work out all right for Sebastian Kofre, but it's slim pickings at the moment for the number 28. He has fallen down 3 places so far.
Yeah, this has been a rough sequence of moments here. You have to be able to try and get yourself gathered back up, though. Don't let these mistakes build up. And don't run over the car in front!
Oh, certainly not. Making rear-end contact with Michael Overbay, but it looks like they both managed to keep it going forward. Have a look at who's this brought in. Byron Daly now right on the back of Stephen Ritters.
Sebastian Kofre is really bottling himself up right now. He needs to take a deep breath here. This is absolutely mistake upon mistake building up. Near contact with Daly now cutting the corner. Now he tries to dive into the car and spins one.
No, Stephen Ritters, he got a bit of oversteer on the exit of MG, and I think Kofre thought the door had opened for him to make the move, but Ritters turned in. Goodness gracious, this has been chaotic. We're only 5 laps into this race, Justin.
I say this phrase several times. If you have a small mistake and let it stew, it can build into a snowball effect where you make another mistake and another one, and they get bigger and bigger magnifications. This was the magnification where it became a gigantic snowball 10 feet tall. Kofre immediately pulls out of the race from that. That move was not on, even with the bobble of the loose moment. Byron Daly has to dodge into the gravel trap to be able to avoid major damage. That was not smart whatsoever, even with that little bit of contact that nearly sawed off the nose of Daly.
Yeah, well, fortunately, good reaction times, I think, from Byron Daly. Very good heads up there. Yes, he did take a trip through the gravel trap, but that could certainly have been worse for Byron.
Yeah, his race, if he elected to maintain the line, obviously would have ended right there. Instead, he's lost all the progress. He had made 14th position on the racetrack. We know, based on his performance in the past in the series in particular, he's got good speed to try and maintain and regain positions. Not going to be easy, though, especially since you have some of the battles such as this in front. You have drivers like Roberto Kofre, Brian Lowe, Brett Thurman, who have gained plenty of spots, mind you, in the AM class, who are moving up through the pack. Some of the AM drivers are in the top 10 now. That's how crazy this start's been.
Yeah, Colin Heffernan up into 7th place now, the leading AM driver. He's got 3 pro drivers separating him from Brian Lowe as we check out Justin Negrete here trying to defend that, or trying to get 8th place from Max Shabley. Good defense from Shabley on the inside in Doohan, and they keep themselves going nicely. Oh dear, this is, well, I'm almost out of breath already, and we aren't even 10 laps into this 28-lap race. There's been huge drama. Have a look at this draft, though, from Justin Negrete. He's going to be forced to the outside in Honda. Could he cut under Max Shabley? Let's see. Yields on the entry, And it looks like Shabley's going to put the power down very nicely, but that's brought Roberto Cofre, Thurman, Lowe, Daly, Vargas, and Doucette all there in this battle.
Yeah, Negrete, I think right now feels like he's getting held up here with how aggressive he's getting. That's not the passing chance right there. I think he's starting to get a little bit frustrated here. Needs to be smart on this. If he goes over aggressive and tries to dive it on in with the late break, there's the chance of the tire-to-tire or side-pod-to-side pod contact. Negrete obviously has some better raw pace right now. He needs to just pick the spot right.
Well, will he be able to pick the spot here? Down the start-finish straight, flat out through the final corner, and straight to the inside as Max Shabley. I think he compromised his exit a little bit. He's going to dart to the inside to defend the position. Negrete not quite able to get fully alongside on the way in. Have a look at this draft here from Brett Thurman, trying to take the last position in the top 10 overall from Roberto Cofre. And Roberto has had a pretty good race so far, up 11 places now. It's been the opposite of fortunes for his relatives. Sebastian and Juan Cofre, I think, just about confirmed retirements from this one. They are both in the pits. As, oh my goodness, Shabley, take it easy, mate. Goodness gracious. No, that's not going to work. Oh, stopped in the middle of the track.
Roberto, how did Roberto Cofre just avoid that?
How? That's the question on my mind. That was crazy. Shabley was sprawled right across the track.
This is one of the most lucky moves I've seen in these types of cars. This line, he just picks the right move towards the bottom line, committed to his racing line, sees the mistake in front, and he just maintains the normal line. It's the only door that opens up.
Wow. Oh, wow. Great reaction times, I have to say. Just needed to tighten it up there at the apex to get past Shabley. Oh, no, Roberto. Easy. He's going to lose so many places here.
I'm not sure what to say. You go from making one of the biggest avoidance moves of the season to making a mistake, clipping the grass, and it loses all the spots you gained initially. This has been unbelievable in this mid-pack right now. Alex Fournier's just had a problem up the road from him.
Oh, yep, and they go by him there. Fournier at a stop and getting back onto the racetrack on the exit of Southern Loop. This battle for 9th is absolutely going off. It's Negrete who leads the way from Brian Lowe, Manuel Vargas, Greg Doucette. This pack goes all the way to 22nd place on my timing as it's 3 wide on the way in. Goodness gracious, Roberto trying his best desperately to hold on to positions. Doucette was the one who came off worst from that. He's now down in 17th after being sent off the circuit there at Honda.
You know, he ran to the back tire, in fact, to Brian Lowe in the left rear. That really forced him wide there. Yeah, a lot of these drivers over-aggressive, I have to be quite frank. But this is the type of racing we've seen at times. As some may say, never a dull moment, as how about trying to make a move on the outside? Well, no, that's not going to work with the Narbles, and that's why.
Oh, come on. That is huge. Off goes Roberto Cofre. Big contact with Laurent Christophe Deruel. That's insane. There's just been non-stop drama here. Let's see Deruel here trying to go up the inside at Lukey Heights. Well, Cofre saw him coming and gave him room on the entry, but stayed ahead coming into MG corner. Deruel very deep, and that would have been an excellent move. But then they come together here. Big understeer for Deruel, and Cofre gets sent up in the air. He's touring into the pits now. I think that might be race over for him.
Yeah, he's going very slow on that entry. My goodness. This has been absolutely wild, the attrition. By the way, the top 3 is compressed from about 1.3 second lead to about 0.3 in the span of 2 laps. So it's getting very busy everywhere, including the front now too.
Yeah, it looked like Moises Caraballo ran a bit wide in Siberia, which has brought Michael Diaz right into it. It's still a Precision Racing Esports 1-2, so an excellent result for that team once again. They've been consistently podiuming through the mid-season, but they've got one of the Cofres there behind him, Michael, the sole Cofre left standing here, and this is going to be interesting. Let's see how they go coming into the first sector. very close. And Diaz will certainly be aware that all of this going on is helping him in terms of the championship. Remember, Diaz is second with drop rounds applied coming into this round. Alex Fournier, being the championship leader, has fallen way down the order thanks to his mistake at that very corner, down to 15th now. So priority number one for Diaz now is to try and maintain this second place, try and keep Coffre behind him and stay in touch with his teammate.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the play between Caraballo and Diaz. Wouldn't be surprised to try and synchronize things, maybe offset by one lap at the most on the strategy point, because they have been able to dictate the pace after Michael Coffre and some of the bubbles we've seen. Towards the back of the grouping, we checked in with James Carter before James Carter nearly visits the grass.
Oh, goodness. Honda hairpin is always one of the big drama spots here at Phillip Island. Carter holding on to 23rd place. He's actually made up positions still, despite the ever so slight mistakes he's been making, thanks to the very varying fortunes for drivers around him. Up into 23rd now and trying his best to chase down Michael Blaze here, who's up 2 places. Very difficult to get the turn in right for MG, and ideally you want to hold the throttle flat here through the penultimate corner and through the last corner as well. It's that point that defines your entire run down the start-finish straight.
Especially with the amount of slipstream you pick up as a driver there, it's a huge chance to be able to save a little bit of fuel if you don't want to pass, but in particular, with slingshot to that Gardner Straight to Duan corner, as we've seen all the way to the southern loop. But these cars are continuing to break away the leaders, should say, from Overbay and company. Overbay is still maintaining a bit lap time-wise, but these top 3 in general have been able to break away to now 4 seconds over Overbay after what was about 2 seconds the deficit before, with Coffre and Diaz trying to wheel it in, with Diaz wheeling that car loose.
Yes, coming through Lukey Heights, the curb changes, goes from flat to a nice raised concrete curb. You don't want to be touching that curb at that time, and those drivers finding that out the hard way. Well, Caraballo starting from pole position and has led every lap so far. Michael Diaz chasing him down. Michael Coffre chasing Diaz down. The gap has extended here between the Precision Racing esports drivers, and now I think Diaz is going to start thinking about the defense as we have cars in the pits. Brett Thurman, Brian Lowe and Alex Fournier coming in, and looks like Gunderson is in the lane as well. We've already had a pit stop for Manuel Vargas, also Ho Yin Lung, Ryan Berry and Roberto Coffre, though in the case of some of those drivers, it might be to repair damage, those guys further down the field. The number 69 makes its way out.
Was about to say it's a usually 11-second stop with the wing change. It looks like tires taken from Thurman right there. 6.9 seconds, so a little bit more time taken, but I think getting a little bit more fresher grip possibly. We'll see if that works out compared to some of the top-offs just seen there. I like the call from Vargas, though, to get away from some of the craziness that's been going on in his class. All of this as well, the track temperature hasn't really changed, the wind conditions haven't really changed.
Yeah, it looks like the track temp has fallen down by 1 degree, but that's not going to make a huge difference out there on a road course. As a pass being made there at Honda, just behind. So now we can start thinking about the middle phase of this race. Things finally seem to have calmed down a little bit, but coming down into MG corner here for James Carter, still chasing down Michael Blaze, and it seems that he's been making up time. They got to think about Max Chablis up ahead of them as well. I saw Chablis have a huge oversteer moment coming through Lukey Heights. So if he doesn't get some consistency under his belt, then Blaze and Carter are going to be right on him. We got Stephen Ridders in the pit lane as well as Nick Karangis as well. So only 2 takers on the pits this time around. As oh no, that's a problem there for Ridders. Big shame there, overshooting his pit box. We've already seen that once tonight. And Matt Dinsmore enters the lane behind.
Just as you stopped talking about Chablis too, he also overcooked Southern Loop. So a lot of drivers making mistakes. Rouel is also found a little bit of a runoff space and is now going the right direction. Honda corner has not been his corner today. He is again side by side with some of the cars, including Chablis, who is now in front of him and nearly hitting the next car in front of him in Blaze.
Oh, good lord. This is getting a bit insane here. Chablis going to try and get this position back through Hayshed. Take it easy. Takes the inside line, but it's not going to have the advantage into Lukey Heights. Deruel has to think about Raymond Day and James Carter, and Day had that very dramatic incident in the opening laps. This battle for 13th, oh, Day almost had to look up the inside of Deruel, but couldn't get it done on the downhill run into MG. Are either of these guys going to make it to the pits? Michael Blaze decides to pull off, but that is not the most optimal entry there for Blaze. He slowed down a little bit early.
He was looking pretty slow on that entry, I will say, but I think he was just trying to play a little conservative, knowing how close and how aggressive some of the cars were in his group. Especially since they're trying to pass in the next corner after Ruel again loose on the outside. Chablis able to defend pretty well here, and I will say this, Chablis, when he has been making mistakes, pretty decent. In fact, all the Atomic Racing cars have been strong. The top AM driver is the best implementation of that today, with him in 6th spot. Look at the feistiness, though, on the outside.
Oh, that is deep for Deruel. Can he hold it on round the outside of Honda? Just about, but loses out on the exit. He's going to have the inside for Siberia. That's a car off. Hello, that's Roberto Cofre, who's still out on the racetrack. Side-by-side continues between Deruel and Chablis. It looks like Chablis just gotten it done there on the run out of Siberia. You can hold the outside there.
Oh, this isn't done yet either. Chablis really trying to play really defensive, even got a good launch there to break away from Morel. But I don't know how long this will last, especially with the window open. Narrow lock of the tires. Right now, really feisty and really slick it seems right now. Wouldn't be surprised if one of the cars in this pack come in. There it is, right there too. Raymond Day.
Righto, let's see if he nails this pit entry. Oh, very deep there, but it looks like he just got it slowed down in time.
No, he didn't. He sped it 50 miles an hour instead of the 45.
Oh, no. So that's going to be a penalty there, potentially, for that driver. Raymond Day as side-by-side between Michael Overbay and Michael Cofre. Hang on. Michael Cofre, he's dropped off the back of Caraballo and Diaz. There's been a mistake there.
And yes, it's because he tried to go for the send, I think Michael Cofre did for second. And like we've seen, drivers have been outbreaking themselves into Honda today. Michael Cofre did that, trying to get around Diaz, and it's cost him. And now, Overbay, this really helps him with the chance to get to the podium with his run needing some good points. Overbay's on his own, mind you. It's up the road where it's the battle for the race leaders with Michael Cofre. Cofre's already cooked through the corner to the grass, and then you're Overbay saying, "Hi there, I'm gonna pass you, or try at least. Nice to see you again."
Yes, indeed, but that outside line for Siberia working out well, excellently for Michael Cofre, and that's where we ended up picking them up. More drivers coming onto the pits meanwhile. Takeshi Kita's in, Greg Doucette is in, so the drivers are gradually filtering through here. It is the top 7 plus 10th and 11th now. Oh, well, actually, I'm going to change that right away because Max Chablis has just come into the lane, as has Doucette. So Chablis finally, after plenty of dramas there, he was fighting very scrappily with Laurent Christophe Deruel, and will work himself out there, get out of the action, try and get some consistency down and solidify his result. It's a properly solidified result, though, for the Precision Racing esports team, with Caraballo and Diaz continuing to jet away at the front of the field. These guys now have 4.3 seconds over Cofre, and there we go. There's the split strategy. Caraballo comes in from the lead, releases Diaz into some clear air, but with a track like Phillip Island being as dependent on drafting as it is, we'll see how they stack up once the pits are complete.
The big thing, though, is the majority of their competitors inside the top 10 who are still on circuit and or completed their service already. They also don't have too much draft. The first draft pack is 11th on back, led by the AM class leader with Brett Thurman in the mix with the 3-lap difference. There's Caraballo off and away. Carabao with a 5-second pit stop, nice and clean, nice off and away, just trying to put as much fuel as he needs to get to the very end of this race, and cycles out in a good spot too, in front of Brad Miller.
Righto, and Miller has yet to come into the pits. The next driver who has already pitted is Robert Ridgway in 10th place. So, now we get into crunch time for this race. Majority of the field have taken their stops, and now it's almost time to see how the end of the race will be conducted. We follow Diaz as he makes his way through the last couple of corners here. Will he elect to go for the pits this time? Yes, he's going tight. Yes, he is. There we go. Into the lane, just catching the grass on entry. Pull it up in time for the pits, mate, and looks like he has done that. So, for Caraballo, it was a 4.1 second stop. Michaels, Cofre, and Overbay follow Diaz in. It's a battle of the Michaels at the moment in the pit lane.
Yeah, good strategy, I will say, when it comes to precision racing esports backed machines. Will they be able to keep things going their way? Yes, indeed. Diaz nice and clean. See if he cycles where he close to the 278. Have to take the long access road. Keep in mind, he clips a bit of the grass, though. Caraballo going to be close to him. In fact, Diaz might just about cycle in front. He does.
Does indeed, and wow, that's worked out very nicely. They had pretty much the same pit stop time there. Diaz, though, with I've just seen a big incident at MG. Max Shabley has come together with Ho Yin Lung. Sorry to draw your attention away from this, but
boy,
my goodness, that was a big fight. Precision Racing Esports, though, with a perfectly executed pit stop there. Unfortunately, Caraballo has lost the race lead. We'll check out what happened here with Lung and Shabley.
Both of these drivers had issues in the Southern Loop 2 in separate incidents. That led to them closing up to each other, and you see right there, a little bit too wide on the exit, and nothing that can be really done except try and go to the grass and avoid trouble if you're Shabley to keep the race going. It's dropped Shabley to 25th on track.
This is the view on board. Shabley saw the door open on the inside, but Lung just catching the grass on the exit of Lukey Heights. I've seen that incident happen so many times before. Good on Shabley to get on the brakes and completely avoid any kind of contact.
Still gets the race, continuing to go on for him, but it's absolutely going to be a disastrous stint, we'll say, for the 55. After being around the middle of the pack, he's at the back of the grid now as a result. And this race, I think, in turn, will have a lot of championship implications, with Alex Fournier having that 48-second pit stop when he came in after his issues earlier. Your pro leader, 27th on the circuit. Everybody else has to start to lick their chops, knowing there was already a DNF for Fournier earlier this season.
Indeed. Well, Fournier all on his own in 27th at the moment. It's been a patchy season for Fournier, and he'll have a lot of races where he would have been thinking what might have been. But with Diaz getting into the race lead versus Caraballo, I think it's pretty certain he's going to take that championship lead back. We do have to think about drop rounds, but just off the top of my head, that difference in position between Diaz and Fournier is certainly going to work in Diaz's favor now.
Here's the tough thing. Diaz has the DNS, so if he has a bad run himself, that works a little bit back maybe into Fournier's direction. But that's the thing. Diaz has the drop essentially being a 0. Negrete also in that same conversation with a drop of 0, missing the first round, both of them. Overbay, he's one of the first drivers who's competed in every single round and finished every single round. He might have a big lunge forward here, possibly. We'll have to see again how things fare out after today. But there's a lot in the minds of some, especially since Diaz is the one leading. Diaz is the one who can really pick up a lot of positions here, especially with Moises waiting in station mode right now.
Very good lead that these guys have now, as all of the drivers have come into the pit lane. These guys have 5 seconds over Michael Cofre, and Cofre has managed to get away from Overbay thanks to the pit cycle. There's the number 14 And I got to say, Kofre might be regretting a few things from this race. He's still way off. He's out of contention for victory. But if he can hold on for a podium, at the very least, that's still going to be a result he'll be happy with. A bit wide on the way into Lukey Heights, I have to say, picking up some gravel on the right-hand side tyres, but still keeping it clean, which is more than can be said for a lot of the drivers here today.
Especially with all the bits of contact we've seen and all the speed bits being thrown around the racetrack as a result. But in all seriousness, Michael Kofre, he's chipping away a little bit at the gap, but the problem is he's got nobody to draft off of. That's part one. Part two, I don't think there's enough time with the net time he's gaining on the circuit to close up. He just picked up a 10th, if that, to the race leader. That major dive in through Honda has been a costly dive as a result compared to what he could have done if he was able to stay with the rest of the pack, with those other two cars, should say, to be able to compete for the race lead still.
Yeah, and the fact that the leaders are close together means they can afford to use the slipstream, and that's going to gain them a little bit of time every single lap as well. Side by side, meanwhile, it's Takeshi Kita and Stephen Ridders, the teammates, making their way through. And it looks like Kita getting that position, coming into the southern loop. They've got Gunderson up ahead of them. Gunderson has certainly been a big gainer here, up 16 places. As things stand, he's the driver who's gained the most positions in this race, but contact between the teammates is not going to help things for Ridders and Kita. Got to take it easy, guys. Rule number 1 of sim racing is don't hit your teammate. It's also rules 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And I believe 7, 8, and 22B. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay machine. Some of the Atomic Racing cars have a certain logo with a bit of an eyebrow raised look to it. This may be one of those moments. Car's already there, tries to go there, might not have seen it in the spotter signal. That nearly sawed off the front wing, we'll say, of Stephen Ridders there.
Yeah, that was very close to the car going into the air, banging wheels. Well, they've caught up to Gunderson for sure. And if the draft works out here for Takeshi Kita, he'll be able to get by into Southern Loop potentially. See how strong the slipstream is. He's going to, wow, that is a big difference in straight line speed. Up the inside into Doohan Corner goes Takeshi Kita. Could still be in contention for perhaps 12th place, depending on if there's any issues in the last 5 laps of this race. But he is by Gunderson, and now a little bit of a gap to his teammate Stephen Ridders, so there shouldn't be much risk of contact, at least for the time being.
There is one thing to note. You may have noticed on the time pylon a couple laps ago that the AM lead may have swapped. Well, that was because a certain driver, Roberto Kofre, had an incident coming out of the southern loop on the inside. That forced the then leader that time in Heffernan off the circuit. Brett Thurman has been able to take advantage and is now leading the pack. Heffernan is still within range, though, and his Atomic Racing machine still has, though, Justin Negretti as the buffer car for the AM class lead here today. We're 7th overall on circuit with about 5 laps to go.
Well, it looks like Negrete is going to pick up a nice slipstream here from Brett Thurman, who goes to the inside down the front stretch. Going to try and block the draft here, but again, the slipstream is so strong down the front stretch with these open setup cars that that's going to work out nicely there for Negrete. Gains a position overall up into 7th, but Thurman still holding on to the AM class lead. That could change, though, with Colin Heffernan behind, and Heffernan was actually a 10th faster than Brett Thurman on the last lap, so there's still potential for that AM lead to be decided yet.
Exactly, and if you're Heffernan, you're thinking you don't want your race or the class coming down to having to dodge a car in a blind corner exit, essentially. He's going to be having a little bit of the red mist to fare about with. He also has to make sure he doesn't bottom the car out. A little bit of scrape in that section or over top there. Just needs to be able to dial it on in. 4 laps. He's got great pace. He's shown consistency from the get-go. He's been one of the quicker cars on the racetrack today and has flown the flag, so to speak, for Atomic Racing along with Robert Ridgway with their partnership with him.
It has been Some varying fortunes for Atomic, but certainly they'll be happy with how things have worked out in that respect. So, now we have 4 laps to go for our race leaders, Diaz and Caraballo. And we see Negrete trying his best to get away from Brett Thurman here. It looks like Heffernan has not quite been able to make an impression on Thurman on this lap. Looking at the lap times, 23.4 for both of those cars. In fact, Heffernan's slower by 0.04 of a second.
Yeah, Heffernan, I think, partly has the issue of he's not as close compared to Thurman with the draft. Negrete, if anything, is assisting a little bit Thurman's case to pull off and away and get some buffer speed. The problem is, though, it's not going to last. Negrete is nearly gone, meaning the draft that's giving the advantage right now to the 69, saying bye-bye, and saying, I've got to try and run away here.
That's how it's going to be. I've just seen a problem for Nicholas Karangis. He's dropped 4 positions and is now down in 28th. It looks like there's been an off-track excursion for him.
Off-track excursions for Leon. Karanjas also, you can group into that. Dinsmore's had some off-tracks moments ago, a bit of an off-track as well going on for a few others. That's led to some toes being taken. Meanwhile, down the front straightaway, attempt for a pass. That is the lap traffic of Dinsmore, letting by Michael Overbay. Trying to himself get some cleaner space. Still 6 seconds back of the race lead. Michael Kofre has ran away. There goes Dinsmore.
Oh dear, and that's off at Southern Loop. And that's one of the worst places you can go off at Phillip Island. Get around the outside of a very fast and long turn. You catch the grass and you're just sucked off the track, and it'll take you ages to get back on. So that's plenty of time lost there for him. But our 2 leaders, Diaz and Caraballo. Diaz, he won't be too fussed about 4th place in qualifying, because through the pit cycle, through consistent driving in this race, he has gotten himself the race lead, and they'll be coming up to 2 laps to go here. Precision Racing Esports coming up for another 1-2 finish here. I'm not going to call it too early, but still, it's been an excellent performance from the Silver Cars once again.
It has been, but here's the thing. In the YAM class, Brett Thurman has just thrown away the lead here, Reese.
Oh, no.
In the Southern Loop again, this time, too strong on the entry, drifted to the whole corner. Heffernan was able to quickly pass on by, and as a result, Thurman is outside of 7 seconds from him. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay machine, because this was on his own. It would be in the Southern Loop moments ago where he would have lost this class lead. Too strong on the entry, sends him sideways, off into the sand, and bye-bye position. Greg Doucette, who we didn't talk about much on today, has recovered to get to 2nd in class now.
Good stuff from Greg Doucette. Here's the onboard, just offline a little bit. Big oversteer moment on the entry into Southern Loop. He did recover it, but he was sent on a trajectory straight for the gravel, was Brett Thurman. So falls down now to 3rd in the AM class. But as you say, yes, Greg Doucette, fantastic performance now, coming back from a 23rd place start.
And for much of the race had been in the gaggle of cars who were bumping and banging, had to dodge a lot of trouble, to even come to a near stop, I believe, a couple times. But as a result of some of the attrition and keeping his nose clean, essentially, Doucette's just been able to pick off positions one by one by one. And now, solid points here, coming up to the final lap.
Coming up to the final lap indeed, line crossed for car 13, Michael Diaz. 13 is usually considered an unlucky number, but evidently no one told Michael Diaz he's going to lead the way here coming into Southern Loop. And it's been such a clean race. Byron Daly still making an impression, though, with that fastest lap, 22.4. He's likely going to threaten Michael Overbay for 4th by the end of this lap, but we'll stay with our leaders just for the time being. I mean, what more can you say about these guys that hasn't already been said? They have just kept it clean. They've made no mistakes whatsoever. They've just put themselves in this position through merit alone.
Qualified well, both of them did here today. Caraballo in particular got the assistance from Diaz to secure the pole position. And after that, They just look to work together, stay in a line, keep the strategy together, focus on the team play, focus on the pit stop as well. And as a result, Diaz and Caraballo have absolutely dominated today. And you have to wonder for Michael Coffre how it could have been. He was the quickest car inside the top 5 in the final stages, but he's not in the range to fight for the end here.
Well, 1-2 finish for Precision Racing Esports. They're going to do a formation finish here. Diaz and Caraballo. Absolutely fantastic stuff there from those guys. That's one to frame and put on your wall. And Coffre is going to finish in 3rd. Overbay holds off Daly for the last position in the top 4.
Overbay, good defense, but what a run, we'll say, for Heffernan. Greg Doucette still trying to hold on to 9th overall. Looks like he'll hold on for Throttle Thursday. And throttling through the pack he did to be able to keep himself clean. Brett Thurman, he nearly had the chance to take advantage of some of the trouble up the road. Instead, the trouble finds himself again to drop himself to 11th position.
Well, there's our AM class winner, Colin Heffernan. Very well executed race there, up 9 places from where he started. He should be absolutely stoked with that. But the formation flying continues here for Diaz and Caraballo, and that is something that will definitely lift the team's spirits, could potentially put them in contention for the team's championship here coming up to the end of the season. We're going to step aside very briefly on the Global Sim Racing channel. When we come back, we'll have our official results and interviews with our top 3.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're going to give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Well, it was a pretty typical race for the Precision Racing League Formula 3 series, and by typical we mean action-packed and drama-filled, but rising above it was the Precision Racing Esports drivers, with Michael Diaz taking victory over pole-sitter Moises Caraballo. Michael Coffre holds on for 3rd place, though he could have been in contention for victory. Michael Overbay and Byron Daly will round out the top 5. Robert Ridgway comes home in 6th, with Justin Negrete in 7th. The AM class win goes to Colin Heffernan, with Greg Doucette in 2nd there, and Fernando Rodriguez in 10th place.
11th spot today went to Brett Thurman after cycling himself up to the AM class lead after Heffernan's off-track excursion avoiding traffic. Thurman had the same issues nearly in the same section, and that drops him to 11th overall and 3rd in class. Manuel Vargas, he started up the pit window today and finished in 12th with the undercut call. Takeshi Kita, a major recovery drive. At one point, he was spun around in the Sector 3 and still finished in 13th. Steven Ritters finished 14th. Brian Lowe finished in 15th. Then it's Ruel who finished in 16th. Then Gunderson, Blaze, Chablis, and Miller, the top 20 today.
Tyler Gore was the sole driver to not qualify, but he worked to his benefit in the race from 33rd to 21st, and the last finisher on the lead lap was Raymond Day. Alex Fournier, the championship leader, that is going to sting there, 23rd place a lap down. He's joined by Ryan Berry, James Carter, Matt Dinsmore, and Neil Alexander. And then we've got Nicholas Karangis retiring 5 laps from the end after contact with Ho Yin Leung, and then Roberto Cofre 9 laps from the end, unfortunately going to the end in 30th place. Richard Swindels and Sebastian and Juan Cofre, our first retirements from the race. Goodness gracious. There were a lot of varying fortunes here tonight, but we are going to talk to the drivers whom fortune smiled upon the most. Michael Diaz joins us now. It's another win in the bag for you, Michael, and should certainly help you with your championship lead. How'd the race go for you?
How's it going, guys? Absolutely. This is the race I most wanted to win because there were some guys doing brake dragging in the qualifying. So I just really wanted to finish ahead of those guys. But other than that, the race was pretty smooth. We decided to take care of our tires early on, so we could have, because the cars will get tricky towards the end. So yeah, we just took care of the tires, took care of the cars, and it's an easy 1-2 today.
I wanted to ask about the way things worked out in the pit cycle. You got a quicker pit stop than Moises, and you guys came out in the inverse order you came in. Was it a decision from you guys to hold position?
Yeah. Moises unfortunately had a few bad races, so I'm ahead in the championship for now. So we decided I should maximize our points today, and yeah, it's just maximize our opportunities.
Well, maximise your opportunities you did, and especially with a poor result for championship leader going into this round, Alex Fournier. That puts you back in contention properly for the title race, but you still have to consider drop rounds. How are you going to approach the rest of the season?
Well, I missed the first race, so my drop round's already taken care of. These are the points I have now. It's what I have. Rest of the season, there's a few tracks that I don't know as much, like next week at Virginia. So it's going to be kind of tough. We'll see what happens.
We shall indeed go into VIR next week. Well, before we let you go, Michael, anyone you'd like to thank for your victory?
As always, my teammate Moises for always being there, and the guys at PRL, Jerome, Aaron, thank you.
There's Michael Diaz, race winner here tonight. Second on the road, of course, Moises Caraballo, who stood by with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And Moises, it was talked about where the focus was trying to get towards the points. You started off today with a blistering qualifying lap, top of the board, led majority of the laps before the pit stop sequence. How do you feel about your day today? 16 laps led, most in the race.
Hi guys, how are you? Good night. For me, it was a very, very, very good race. I know we got the pace. We was practicing every week. And I know we got the pace, we got the car, so I was very comfortable with the setup that me and Michael work. And the car was very, 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 very smooth. And we can get the results that we want.
Yeah, you guys from the get-go, especially with all the craziness that happened about a couple positions behind you. You had a breakaway as well with Michael Cofre. And Michael Cofre, of course, lost the time after one of the sends in towards Honda. Talk through, though, trying to battle as a group with some of the moments throughout the season, because entering today, you had one DNF, 2 DNSs, a 30-point run at round 3, a 21-point round in last time out. How big was a finish like this for you after some of the struggles all season in your camp? No offense.
Yeah, was a very, very good results that give me a lot of confidence for the next run. So next time I will be harder.
Absolutely, in that next round, going to be intriguing. VIR, your opinion there, because that's going to be a very tight circuit in itself, too.
Yeah, it's very good. It's a very good circuit. Very very difficult. Very technical. But I think we can get the right setup and try to do the 1-2 again.
Well, congratulations once again on the top two, a team 1-2, in fact, for you today.
Thank you, guys. I will see you next time.
Moises Carabal finishes in second today, 0.064 seconds, doing a photo finish toward the line. But what an emotional time for the YAM class leader, Reese. He's with you.
Yeah, he is indeed. Colin Heffernan taking victory there. Colin, just a few laps from the end, you were pretty much guaranteed a podium, but found yourself in the lead.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy race. I had a kind of a run-in real early on with Ho Yin there, and I don't know, it was really close. I think if he held the apex, I wouldn't have touched him. You know, it was kind of a racing incident. Unfortunate that we lost out on that battle so early.
Well, nonetheless, it works out pretty well for you here with another AM victory under your belt. And in terms of the championship, you were down a little bit, but this is still a really good haul of points for you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely awesome. I need to figure out how to make more races because you know I'm having pretty good luck this season, so it's going well.
That it is. Well, wishing you the best of luck in making races in the second half of the season. Before we let you go, Colin, anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh yeah, of course. Atomic Racing, Ridgeway Setups, my partner Tasha, all my homies in the Discord cheering me on, watching every week. And probably some people I forgot, but thanks guys.
Really good job from Colin Heffernan to take the AM class victory tonight. And final driver interview going to be stood by with Justin momentarily. Greg Doucet coming home in second in the AM class.
Yeah, Greg, and you did this very quietly today. Started in 23rd position. How was it trying to cut through the field and avoid some of the craziness that seemed to really take shape in the first 15 laps?
To be honest, I don't think that I really avoided a whole lot of craziness. I seem to be into the mix of it all, and I happened to get lucky. On, I think it was corner 4 on lap 1, I ended up trying to slow down. There was a bit of a bunch up. Someone from behind hit me. I hit the next person. I took on some aero damage. And then later on in the race, about halfway through, I ended up getting some front aero damage again. And when I went in for the pit stop halfway through the race, I had the option to do the quick repair. Or not the quick repair, but the optional repairs. I opted out. The car was handling all right still. I just didn't have the straight line speed that I was expecting to have. But a lot of the positions just came to me. There was carnage everywhere, and it was just a matter of trying to keep your nose clean.
Why do you feel this track seemed to trend towards that direction, in your opinion?
High speed corners, especially off of the main straight. That first corner 1 and 2, they're high speed corners, and coming off of the straight, a lot of people, there's a lot of draft, so it creates an excellent opportunity for someone to take the draft and go 2 or 3 wide. And I don't know if that's where I'll have to go back and watch the race, the footage later on, but I can only assume that that's where a lot of it happened. And yeah, you go 2 wide, 3 wide through a high speed corner where people aren't particularly comfortable doing or behind another car with the draft. And yeah, it just leads to chaos. So
now the major, absolutely. The major thing keep in mind is for now, with a few rounds to go, 4 in total, you entered today with the amateur points lead after your strong run last time out. Now it gets interesting because Jonathan Alomar, believe, took the DNS possibly today. Alexander, he finished 27th, likely be his drop. Gunderson had some struggles. Swindell's had some struggles. You're in the driver's seat possibly in the closing stages for the championship fight. How does that make you feel and approach these next races?
It's pretty cool. I thought that Miller was up there at 1.2. I had my eye on him. I remember I was behind him a couple points in this race. So I was just trying to see if I could push to get ahead of him as well. I'm not sure where Colin Heffernan stands right now, but I don't know, just the same thing, just kind of keep my head down and see if I could finish the race cleanly, and usually that's going to yield good results.
Technically for Heffernan, believes second AM victory of the season, but 3 DNSs.
Okay.
For reference, when it comes to Brad Miller, he had 1 DNF earlier. He spun from the top 10 at one point in this one.
Right.
Anyone you want to thank for the run?
Yeah, I'd like to thank whatever custom prints and gifts, good vibrations. Also, special thanks to my friends and family for watching and cheering me on. Thank you to Team Throttle Thursday for helping me come up with the setup. And of course, you guys at the Global SimRacing channel, PRL, and all the other sponsors who make this production possible.
Congratulations on the run.
Thank you. Bye.
Once again, that's Greg Doucette coming away second in the AM class.
Wow, what a race it was in the Formula 3 series. Certainly a lot to talk about in the end from all of that. But I tell you what, we're gearing up for a fantastic second half of the season here, because we're going to VIR next week in the F3s. Really looking forward to that. You'll be able to catch Ferrari and Formula 3 action same time next week here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Before we go, one more thanks for our series sponsors, Advanced Sim Racing. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available on the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks must also go to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more awesome work. Thanks to the team today, Justin, Joe, and Dougie. I'm Reese. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Of course, next time, the Ferraris are racing at Road America and the Formula 3s are racing at Virginia on May the 5th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, we say race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.